I want to start today with a deceptively simple question. If all the resources in the world, and I mean absolutely everything from land and water to raw materials and energy, if they were infinite, would there still be poor people? Would there be wars? Or, to bring it a little closer to home, would there be any need for us to sit around doing financial planning?
Yeah, it's a fascinating hypothetical. When you strip away the constraints of physical reality and just sit with that idea, the answer to all of those questions is a resounding no.
Right.
Poverty just vanishes overnight if everyone has unlimited access to whatever they need. The core territorial and resource-based drivers for most global conflicts disappear. And you certainly don't need a spreadsheet to track your monthly budget or optimize a retirement portfolio if your bank account literally has no bottom.
No spreadsheets, no fighting over oil, no stress over the grocery bill, but we obviously don't live in that universe, so welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be diving in.
We are looking at a framework laid out by Jason Coe in a piece titled, Scarcity is the Source of Economic Issues. And our mission today isn't to drag you down into a depressing conversation about what we don't have.
Exactly.
Instead, we're going to explore this concept of scarcity, which is the ultimate starting point of literally all economic issues, and use it as a lens. We want to help you understand the hidden rules that are secretly governing your time, your money, and every single life choice you make.
And that pivot is crucial right at the start. Because when most people hear the word scarcity, they instinctively equate it with despair, or they treat it as some kind of unavoidable tragedy. But if we shift our perspective, understanding scarcity actually becomes a highly effective tool for optimization.
A tool? Yeah.
Because the reality we operate in is painted entirely in the colors of finite. We have limited land, limited oil, limited salaries, and most importantly, limited lifespans. This finite nature of reality is the opponent we spend our entire lives playing against, whether we consciously realize it or not.
Okay, let's unpack this, because Coe makes a major mind shift right out of the gate that flips how we usually talk about wealth. We need to completely debunk the myth that scarcity is just a problem for poor people.
Right, it is so easy to fall into that trap.
It is, to look at personal finance and think, if I just had $1 million or $10 million, I wouldn't have to deal with scarcity anymore. But that is an illusion. Scarcity is a universal human dimension.
Oh, absolutely.
Even if you are a billionaire sitting on a mega yacht somewhere in the Mediterranean, your day still only has 24 hours. In the face of time, there is absolute terrifying equality across all of humanity.
Time is the great equalizer. It does not care about your tax bracket or your investment portfolio. But while scarcity itself is permanent and inescapable, our mental approach to it can evolve.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is really about how we allocate that ultimate scarce resource. Coe synthesizes human behavior into 3 distinct ways that people choose to spend their daily 24 hours. The first bucket is what we can call wasting.
Oh man, which is probably the most uncomfortable bucket to look at closely.
It usually is. Wasting time is when we squander our finite hours on meaningless socializing, or chasing the endless sensory stimulation of short videos and social media algorithms.
Just scrolling away.
Exactly. You look up and 3 hours are just gone, completely evaporated, never to return. You didn't gain rest, you didn't gain capital, you just burned the resource.
Wow.
The second bucket is survival. This is where a vast majority of the global population operates. It is the straightforward, utilitarian exchange of your time for physical labor and wages. You give an hour of your scarce time, you get a set amount of money to survive until the next day.
An hour for $1. And I think it's important to recognize why people get trapped in that second bucket. It's not a lack of ambition. When you are operating purely in survival mode, trading hours for wages is exhausting. The physical and mental toll of that constant trade leaves very little bandwidth for anything else.
Right, it completely drains you.
Which is often why people slip back into the first bucket, actually. Wasting time on short videos becomes a low-energy coping mechanism for the exhaustion of survival mode. It is a very difficult loop to break out of. Which brings us to the third bucket, the strategy of the wise. Coe calls this leverage.
Leverage is where the entire game changes. This is the realm of people who have figured out how to disconnect their earning potential from the strict limitations of their own 24 hours.
How do they do that?
They use money to buy other people's time, or alternatively, they invest their own scarce time into ventures, systems, and projects that generate compounding returns. They aren't just trading an hour for $1, they are planting an hour like a seed.
Building an asset.
Right, building an asset or a skill that produces fruit year after year without requiring constant daily watering.
So, to you listening right now, which of those 3 buckets is your 24 hours falling to today? Are you losing chunks of it to the infinite scroll? Are you locked purely in survival mode, making that one-to-one trade of hours for dollars? Or are you finding ways, even small ways, to build leverage?
It is a heavy question.
It really is, but taking an honest inventory of where you stand is the only way to change your trajectory. You cannot change the fact that your resources are limited, but you have total agency over how you optimize the allocation of what you do have.
This raises an important question, though. We've established that time is the ultimate scarce resource. But how does the market actually determine the value of all our other scarce resources?
Here's where it gets really interesting. Coe brings up the classic diamond and water paradox. We all know the basic economic riddle: water is absolutely essential for human life.
You literally cannot survive more than a few days without it.
Exactly, yet it is incredibly cheap. Diamonds are basically useless for survival. Aside from industrial cutting or sparkling on a ring, they do absolutely nothing to keep you alive. Yet they are breathtakingly expensive.
Right.
We've all heard that paradox, but the framework here forces us to look at price not as a measure of utility, but purely as a thermometer.
That is the perfect analogy. Price is a thermometer.
Yeah.
It is simply a tool that measures the ambient temperature of scarcity in any given environment. Water is cheap because in most of our daily environments, it is abundant.
Diamonds are rare.
Diamonds are expensive because they are rare and difficult to extract. The scarcity dictates the price tag, completely independent of how much we actually need the item to live.
And we saw this thermometer spike violently in the real world very recently. Let's rewind to the year 2020 during the initial shock of the pandemic. Remember how the price of face masks absolutely skyrocketed?
Oh, definitely.
Coe points out how the price jumped from 5 ringgit to 50 ringgit seemingly overnight. The immediate human reaction across the board was outrage. People were furious, blaming it entirely on predatory merchants and corporate greed.
And from a purely emotional standpoint, that reaction makes complete sense. We expect prices to reflect the cost of production, and the cost to produce a paper mask hadn't changed.
Not at all.
But if we analyze the mechanics of the market through the lens of scarcity, a totally different picture emerges. When a resource becomes extremely scarce almost instantly, like masks during a sudden global outbreak, the price has to shoot up. Price acts as the final, ruthless floodgate for allocating that extremely limited resource.
Because if the price had stayed locked at 5 ringgit, the very first person to walk into the pharmacy would have bought all 5,000 masks to hoard in their garage.
Exactly.
And there would be 0 left for the next 100 people who actually needed them.
Precisely. The sudden spike to 50 ringgit forces a behavioral change. The high price forces the consumer to calculate their actual need and only buy the minimum required, which leaves inventory for others.
It's harsh.
It doesn't feel warm or comforting, but it is the raw mechanics of scarcity actively exercising its pricing power to ration a depleted resource.
It's the market's blunt instrument. Let's look at another real-world application of this thermometer that isn't about global crises, but everyday life. Imagine a super popular, trendy new restaurant. It's one of those exclusive spots with amazing reviews, but it only has 10 seats inside. Right now, there are 30 hungry customers waiting outside on the sidewalk. 10 supply slots, 30 demands.
A perfect microcosm of scarcity and resource allocation. You have a bottleneck.
Yeah.
So how did the people in that crowd navigate it? According to the framework, they generally split into 2 distinct camps based on how they deploy their resources. First, you have the wealthy, or those with high disposable income.
What do?
They will use their money to bypass the scarcity of seats. They might pay a massive premium booking fee weeks in advance just to secure that table. In essence, they were using their abundant resource money to buy back their scarce resource time, skip the line entirely. And then you have the average person in that crowd. They might not have the extra capital to drop on a premium booking fee, so they deploy a different resource their time. They will stand in that queue on the sidewalk for 3 hours just to get a seat. They are actively trading their time to save their money.
Right.
But I want to weave something in here that Coe touches on later, because I don't think it's always just a simple trade of time for money. Sometimes there is a third element at play saving phase, or building social capital. Are those people really standing in line for 3 hours just because the food is good and they want to save money? Or are they spending their scarce time so they can post an aesthetic photo on social media to elevate their perceived status? What's fascinating here is how that complicates the entire equation. You aren't just allocating time and money anymore. You're spending those finite resources to protect or inflate an image. You are burning 3 hours of your life to signal value to other people.
Which perfectly brings it back to you, the listener. Would you, personally, sacrifice 3 hours of your precious after-work rest just to get a meal at a trendy restaurant? There is no universally right or wrong answer, but your choice is a mirror. It reflects exactly how you rank your own scarce resources. If you wait in line, you are saying your money is currently more scarce and therefore more valuable than your time. If you pay the fee or just walk away and eat somewhere else, you are saying your time is too scarce to waste on a single meal.
Every time we make one of these choices, whether it is waiting in line, buying a 50 ringgit mask, or spending an hour scrolling, we are triggering a chain reaction of consequences. Because resources are scarce, we are forced to choose. And because we must choose, there is always a price to pay, even if no physical cash changes hands.
So what does this all mean? It means we need to talk about the hidden price tags attached to everything we do. We all know the foundational concept of opportunity cost.
Sure.
We've all heard the definition. It's the value of the highest graded option you abandon when you make a choice. But Coe's application of this to everyday decisions is jarring because it highlights a massive blind spot in human psychology.
We are remarkably bad at calculating the weight of the invisible alternative.
Yeah,
Most people only ever calculate what they get in the transaction.
right. What's in their hand?
They look at the tangible item in their hand. They completely ignore the abstract future they just gave up to get it.
Let's bring this to life with the case study Coe shares. We have a guy named Amin. Amin has exactly 2,000 ringgit in spare cash. It's sitting right there in his bank account. And he is staring at 3 different options for what to do with this scarce resource. Option A, he can put it into an investment fund that has an expected annual return of 7%. Option B, he can go to the electronics store right now and buy the newest, shiniest smartphone. Or option C, he can play it safe and keep that 2,000 ringgit in a highly liquid bank account to serve as an emergency fund.
3 very common, very realistic paths. Let's say Amin gives in to present bias. He wants the instant gratification, the new camera features, the shiny screen. He chooses option B and buys the new smartphone. Now, if you ask Amin, what did that phone cost you? He will point to the receipt and say, it cost me 2,000 ringgit.
And that is the illusion of the visible price tag. Amin thinks the transaction starts and ends at the register. But the true cost isn't just the 2,000 ringgit out of his pocket.
It's the invisible, abandoned alternative. He didn't just spend the money. He sacrificed the 7% compounding interest he would have earned in option A.
That's huge over time.
Exactly. Over 10, 20, or 30 years. That 2,000 ringgit wouldn't have just sat there. It would have grown into a substantial financial safety net. But the brain struggles to visualize compounding interest, so it discounts it. And on top of that, and this is the part people miss most often, he sacrificed the peace of mind and the immediate security against sudden risk that option C would have provided.
Right. If his car breaks down tomorrow.
Or he has a medical emergency. He doesn't have that buffer anymore.
The brain focuses entirely on the tangible phone in the hand, but completely ignores the abstract future wealth and security that was just set on fire. The true cost is the lost compounding wealth, plus the sacrificed security.
When you start seeing those invisible price tags, that new phone suddenly looks astronomically expensive.
It really does.
It's not just money leaving your wallet. It is a future version of yourself being actively robbed of leverage. Which really brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this entire framework.
The grand thesis that ties the whole concept of scarcity together. Financial management, and honestly life management, is not just about the act of saving money. Anybody can hoard cash under a mattress.
Right.
But that isn't optimizing for scarcity. Real management is about taking every single dollar you earn and every single minute of your 24 hours and placing it into the specific bucket that yields the highest return and the absolute most value for your life.
Think of your life as a laboratory, and you are the head scientist. The prices you encounter out in the world, whether it is the price of a diamond, the sudden spike in face masks, or the 3-hour wait for a restaurant, are just the thermometers reading the ambient scarcity of the environment.
But you are the one controlling the actual temperature inside your own life laboratory.
Precisely. You decide if you're going to stay trapped in survival mode, or if you're going to aggressively pursue leverage. You decide if the opportunity cost of a shiny new distraction is too high a price to pay for your future security.
I want to leave you with the powerful closing question Koei poses directly to the reader. Think about your own personal value system right now. When you look at your life, which of these three things is actually the most scarce? Is it your time? Is it your money? Or is it your face, meaning your pride, your ego, and how others perceive you?
That's a great question.
Which one of those three is actually worth guarding for the rest of your life? Your answer to that specific question is going to completely dictate the entire trajectory of your wealth and your future.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of opportunity cost, we have to confront a very uncomfortable reality about human behavior. We've talked about the opportunity cost of buying a phone instead of investing in a fund. But what about the choices we make purely for social validation?
Oh, yeah.
So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something to explore on your own that builds right on top of this concept. If everything in life have a hidden price tag, what is the compounding opportunity cost of the decisions you make purely to protect your ego? Think about the clothes you buy just to impress strangers, the car lease that stretches your budget just so you look successful, or the hours you burn agonizing over your digital image. If you are silently sacrificing your precious, totally finite time and your hard-earned leverage just to maintain a certain image for other people, what invisible future are you destroying in the process? What compounding wealth, what deep peace of mind, and what true freedom are you setting on fire just to keep up appearances?